Today we're going to talk about local and global advice for a tough candidate pool and what that means for you. And this is another edition of the Behind the Recruitment Curtain, which is our signature series. So I started Colorado Career Connectors in March of 2021. And within that time, we now have over 1,200 participants, people who have been to our webinars, people who have subscribed to our website. We have brought to you in the past year and 4 months over 30 or 32 plus events. And I hope today's is just as fun as we usually have. If you're just dialing in, please put in your LinkedIn profile so people can network with you, because networking is one of the topics that we're going to discuss today, and how to make Denver, which is a difficult market, easier for you. Today's agenda, we're going to go over a little bit about what Colorado Career Connectors brings to you. I'm going to introduce you to our awesome speakers and two good friends of mine, and then we will answer any questions that you might have. So please don't be shy. If you have a question, raise your hand or put your question in the chat box, or you can chat either Yvette Bell. Yvette, if you could say hi. Yvette is my director of operations. She and I will be monitoring the chat for your questions. And this is an interactive hour session for you to get your week started and to really hear actionable takeaways that you can use in this difficult market. You guys ready to go?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. If I have not met you, I'm so happy to have you in my meetup community. We have been named one of the buyer innovators for Colorado, and super excited to be part of Denver Scale Up Network, one of the top 18 startups in Denver market. I started my own business in 2019, and I'm an executive recruiter and career coach. So I get to see both sides. I'm currently working on CFO position, controller positions, and I'm working specifically right now for the construction area. But I know so many heads of HR, talent folks, and this is why I bring those folks to you. I'm also a premier career coach for women in technology for Anita B. And my career entails working for Lockheed Martin, Comcast, and other Fortune 50 companies just like that. So if you are experiencing toxic work environments or you've been gaslit, I work a lot with BIPOC or Black, Indigenous people of color, women, and anyone who has felt misrepresented or undervalued or marginalized. That is my specialty. My right hand is Yvette Bell, and she puts all of my social media, marketing, and she's a graphic designer and brand consultant. I always tell people, if you're looking for a logo or your slides to be done or anything with your website, Yvette is your person. She is amazing. We have two sponsors that have signed up for 2022. Anna Brambilla is a career ownership coach. She is a partner with the Entrepreneur Source. So if you're thinking about what is next for you and are interested in franchising, Anna would be your best person to turn to. And then Shelly Shell is a financial strategist and partner with Prism Financial. She'll actually be speaking in 2 weeks about the financial transition and what that looks like during a job search or when you're looking for advancement and placement, and really getting clear with your money, our fears with money, etc. So like I was talking about, Shelly will be doing that. So make sure to sign up for that on July 25th from noon to 1. And Yvette will put that link in the chat so that you can sign up for that. I also have my first in-person event that I invite all of you to attend. It's Craft Your Life. And it's a fun, interactive event where we're going to have craft beer samplings at Banded Oak Brewery on 5th Street and Broadway. It's from 5 to 8 p.m. on July 28th. And I have many employers coming to this event. So you'll be able to network with them. You'll be able to meet people in person in a fun, interactive community. And with the discount code of CCC15, you can get your discount now. So please look into that. It's going to be super fun. In fact, one of the people who just popped on is coming to that. Thank you, Cherie. And I invite all of you others, or all of the others that are in town, to join us for that as well. If you have not already subscribed to Colorado Career Connectors, we are a growing career-based community. You can find resources for resume writers, for nutrition coaches, wellness coaches, because I believe that the whole person and the authentic person is who is looking for advancement. So there's lots of resources out there for you. So please sign up with us there. Now it's time to move into our panelist discussion for difficult Denver and local and global advice for a tough candidate pool. My first guest is Tim Meurer, who is the VP of HR for TILD. And Tim and I met through networking and just different entrepreneurs that know each other. And then we realized that we had like hundreds of people in common. And he and I met for lunch one day, and it was just this most fun and authentic conversation. So I'm thrilled to have him and TILD represented at Colorado Career Connectors. Tim, want to say hi to the group?
Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this for weeks now. So excited to get talking.
Awesome. Our next guest is Darren Canthal, who is also a certified leadership and career coach. He and I have certifications in positive intelligence, and Darren just kind of keeps coming up in my world, which is an awesome, awesome thing. He is a career coach for ICC and pretty active outdoor guy as well, from what I understand. So Darren, want to introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, if anyone mountain bikes, let's go. I also met Tim networking, so that's a good thing, and excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Super thrilled to have both of you. And if it's anything like, if this discussion is anything like our pre-event meeting, then this group is going to get lots of tips. And, you know, we're going to talk about what it's really like out there. So let's get started. So what makes the Denver candidate pool so difficult? Tim, I'm going to have you start with this one because you brought this up when we were talking. So I'm going to throw this over to you to start with.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, who doesn't want to live in Denver? That's probably what makes it the most difficult. Now that you have coming off the heels of COVID, or wherever we're at in the COVID timeline, you have people that have decided, you know what, we're going to move to Denver. You have companies now that are looking outside of Denver for talent, and they don't have to necessarily reside in Denver. So people who actually live in Colorado are now finding out that they're competing against a candidate pool across the United States, if not globally, because of the learned behaviors of companies now that they don't have to necessarily have people sitting in the office. Which I think is all kind of played into why the candidate pool here in Denver is incredibly difficult.
Awesome. Darren, what are your thoughts? You're
on
on
mute. Oh, he did it.
Yvette, can you take him off of mute for us?
Sorry, I muted myself. I apologize. I got to talk to myself for 2 seconds.
It's all good.
All right. So of Fortune 500 companies, only 11 are headquartered in Colorado. And I don't know what they are, so don't ask me, please. What it means is that a majority of our employers are small, medium-sized companies. Now, I also don't know the data of what constitutes medium, so take that for what it's worth. But with that being said, is that there's a lot of companies with not a lot of headcount, and there's a lot of candidates. So I think that's one of the challenges is that. Two is, I'm gonna go diversity wise, and I'm gonna be direct, is we're a pretty white state. 61, almost 62% of us are white.
Yeah.
Now, that is a challenge in the sense that companies that want to hire a diverse workforce as it relates to affirmative action diversity are challenged. And I'm guessing Tim could speak to this better than I. I haven't been in corporate America in 4 years, but I also thought it was really interesting when you hear about hiring a diverse workforce as it relates to affirmative action in an otherwise non-diverse place. And I used to question the attorneys and people and saying, all right, fine. If we're 61% white, where does diversity come from an affirmative action standpoint? Now, what I'm not talking about is diversity of thought, background, experience, all those things, which is certainly part of the equation. So one of the challenge, or really to kind of sum up where I'm going with this, is I think a big challenge is that we're heavily weighted in small, medium-sized companies with smaller headcounts. And I think that adds to the complexity, and we're pretty white.
Yeah, I think kind of what Darren was saying is as it relates to diversity and everything that I think we have seen probably over the last 4 or 5 years, companies without the law getting involved, companies have really gone towards, we want to have a more diverse workforce. We want to have diversity of thought. We want to have diversity of culture. And Colorado, to Darren's point, is just, it's not diverse. And companies now, after COVID, have found out that, listen, we don't have to just pull candidates from Colorado. We can pull them not only from the US, but we can pull them from around the globe if we want to, as long as it makes sense for our business structure. And certainly at Tilde, we are a remote environment, and we pull headcount throughout the United States.
Let me add to that actually real quick, Tim, and anyone who's a true HR person on this call can keep me honest here. Is the Pay Equities Act has added a layer of, all right, so I'm getting some head nods, right? So if you are posting a job in Colorado, and again, I forget the exact number of how many employees you need to have, but you are now required to post the compensation range, salary range. Now, I've seen Nike specifically say a company is open to remote work except for Colorado.
Yep.
Because they don't want to share their comp range, which is ridiculous, right? I mean, like, what are you hiding? So I think that adds another layer of complexity to us.
We were talking about some awesome topics now that we have Darren back, the Pay Act, global pipeline. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tim to bring us back where we were, and then let's continue our conversation, okay?
Yeah, what I was just saying was that with kind of with the lack of diversity, as Darren was pointing out, 61% in Colorado, and companies learning that they can kind of recruit across the United States, with the requirement of Colorado also having to post their compensation, which I think Darren alluded to this. I am a massive proponent for, because it forces companies to state what they're willing to pay talent, regardless of who that person is. And I think personally, I feel like it's brought on a lot of change that needed to happen. So I know Darren was kind of touching on that, but that's kind of where we were at on the part of why Colorado is such a difficult place to recruit in.
So I want to add to that. It's difficult also because there's so many startups here. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the startups, from what I have seen, they hire early grads, and it's the younger generation. Let me stop this share. Thank you. And aging. We have a lot of people who, I see people shaking their heads that are here. We have people who are over 40 that are having a hard time getting a job in this market. And so I want to make sure that we're talking about how to be able to network in this global economy, why it makes it difficult. 6 million people started their own business in 2022 alone. And there's a couple people on this call that have also started their own businesses. So Denver is a prime location for people starting their own businesses. In fact, in September, Denver Startup Week is going to be happening, and it's the first, or it's the largest of its kind entrepreneurial event. And so taking advantage of those type of events, like Tild might be able, or might be a sponsor. Definitely, I'm speaking on a panel with DSW. So I just want to put out there, it's an entrepreneurial environment. 7% is African-American, 23% is Latino. The rest are within, so that focus on diversity, you're right. The next topic that we were going to talk about is, let me just pull up the slides again. And thanks so much, everybody, for bearing with us. This has definitely been an interesting concept. Then the next topic is, if my cursor will go there, effective tips for global networking. So Darren, I'm going to have you start with that one, effective tips. And what would you share with our audience?
All right, so for the folks on video, I'm curious, how many of you, how many of you, for those on video, maybe in the chat too, is networking part of your regular game? Like you do this regularly, daily, weekly, monthly? I got one hand raised, two, no, no, okay, a bunch of no's. How about in the chat, people on the phone who are not on video, give me a yes or no. Do you network regularly? Yes, no, no, try to. Well, I guess I could pull out the Yoda, right? Do or do not, there is no try. Ha ha. All right, so a lot of no's. All right, so interestingly enough.
Interesting.
Right? All right, so for the folks who said no, I'm curious, why not? And you can type it in there, please, unless you want to unmute. But it's not my meeting, I shouldn't do that. Not sure how. Okay, cool. Haven't started my search yet. Muted by the host, okay.
Yvette, you can unmute for now.
It sucks. All right, well, based on what I'm seeing here, here's my take on networking. Unless you enjoy going to big rooms to meet a bunch of people you don't know, to shake hands and kiss babies and eat hors d'oeuvres and drink drinks, like if that's not your game, then I say don't do it. I'm an extrovert and I hate those things because I'll go find Shelly and Tim and stand in the corner and talk to them for 3 hours and not meet anybody else. So what networking is to me, very simply put, is who in your personal and professional networks are you willing to reach out to and, very simply put, ask for help. Now, for the person who said they're not starting their search yet, I would tell you, if you don't network until you start your search, it's too late. Because now you want something from them. And listen, we always want something, but wanting an introduction as opposed to wanting a job is a much different gig. Now, here's the next layer of networking, which is that I'm going to bring a few points together, at least I think, is I grew up in human resources and I used to be a recruiter. And when I tell you 99% of people apply to jobs online and do nothing else, I might even be giving you too low of a number. It might be like 99.9% of people. So what they do is they apply and they pray for you to get back to them. What very few people do is actually network. Now, I'll make 2 points here. When I was a recruiter, if you as the candidate reached out to me by email or by phone, I would give you the time of day. And I'm a New Yorker. So, you know, gruff, direct, gatekeeper, like this is very natural for me. But if you took the time and you were resourceful enough to find me, I'm going to give you the time of day and I'll talk to you. Now it's going to be quick, but I'm still going to give you the time of day. Point being is that, let's just say it's the 1% that do that, that sticks out. And so that I'm talking about is networking, right? Yeah, we don't know each other, but you still networked your way into getting in touch with me. Now, bringing it back to where I was going earlier about your personal and professional networks is virtual coffees, just connecting, keeping an idea of people's birthdays, watching LinkedIn for new jobs, and not pressing some bullshit automatic congrats on your anniversary, because we all know that you just pressed a button. There's nothing authentic about that. All my point is that the more you keep in touch with somebody, the more they'll remember you when. Right? If I reach out to Tim and Tim and I know each other, I know Tim is going to advocate for me. If he has a job, he's going to introduce me. If he knows someone that can help my job search, he's going to make an introduction. If I need a lunch and I'm broke, he's going to take me out to lunch. So my point being is that when you network, if networking feels like the bad word and it's draining and it sucks, well, then how about you're just connecting with people you know? I think connecting is actually kind of a nice thing. And so I think there's part mindset, and I'm sorry to beat that coaching drum of just change your mindset, but it could be some of that. 2 is break it down into bite-sized chunks, meaning call, network, connect with people you know, and that when you call them or contact them, they're happy to hear from you because they know you. And the 3rd is, instead of asking about, do you have a job for me? The secret question to ask is, who in your network are you willing to introduce me to? And for bonus points, asking them, what can I do to help you? If you choose to ask that final question, I bet people will be surprised you even ask it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna piggyback on a lot of what Darren said, because he mentioned a word in there, authentic. So I am similar to Darren this is probably more about me than you want to know, but unless I'm the center of attention, I don't like networking events. If I'm speaking at them or I'm talking at these events, I'll be the ham, the dog and pony show, whatever you want. Outside of that, if I'm just going to an event, I hate them. I can't, and I am also extremely extroverted. I can't stand them. The reason is because they're unauthentic. I want to meet people and I want to learn about those people and what they do, how they got to where they got to, because I want to establish a real relationship with them. I don't believe in calling up Darren. When I first met Darren, the last thing I would do is call Darren and say, hey, do you have any opportunities for me? And he doesn't know who I am. We've not established a relationship because I am obviously using him. All of us use each other at some point. On some level, we're all using each other. So I'm not saying that I stand on my pillar of righteousness and I don't use anybody. That's not true. What is true, though, is I want to establish an authentic relationship with you when I'm connecting. And when Darren talks about if he needs money and needs a free lunch, would I take him out? Absolutely, because I know that there is a mutual connection between him and I, and there's a relationship that has been built over multiple conversations and lunches and authentic development of relationships. For anybody who says that I don't want to network, and I know Darren was a little bit more nice about this, you absolutely have to change your mindset. There is no choice. You are competing against, in the history of the world, there has never been more competition for jobs, not just in Colorado, but just all over the United States. And if you're not willing to put yourself out there and authentically develop a relationship with other people in your sphere of experience, it is going to be extremely difficult to move forward, to be promoted, to really develop yourself as a professional, if not impossible.
We could talk a lot about this topic, and I'm really kind of shocked to see the number of people who aren't networking. So starting small, your circle of trust of who you can reach out to, like Darren talked about, and then what's your stretch zone look like? And then what's your discomfort zone look like? So starting small is really the way to do that. And that's why we're hosting an in-person craft event. Like, let's just have fun. And that's why it's called Craft Your Life, so that you can get in front of people in this community who are really comfortable and help you to kind of come out of your shell. So on the global perspective, either Tim or Darren, what are you seeing in networking that is working?
Are you talking about the globe, or are you speaking just overarchingly?
Overall,
Sorry, what was the question?
what tips can you give that do work for networking, especially for introverts?
Piggybacking on something Tim said, then I'll answer your question. As Tim was saying, like, competition is super high right now. And whatever your job title is, staff accountant, HR professional, marketing manager, fill in the blank, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other people have the same title. And it's reasonable to believe that they have a similar skill set and capabilities as you. The main difference is you. You are the differentiator. So when people ask me about the secret sauce, you are the secret sauce. Your personality, the way you tell jokes, the way you tell stories, the how and the why you do what you do. And so in a networking scenario, you know, I like Simon Sinek, but I'm not going to beat his drum of know your why, but I am going to beat the drum of know you, right? I'm direct. I curse. I love jokes. I'm an outdoorsy guy. I wait to the last minute before I do something. I wear sandals on most days in the summertime. If I have a client that wants me to get dressed up in business casual, I'm cringing because those clothes don't even fit me anymore. Like, I can tell you these stories because that is me. So whatever is you, be able to tell those stories and lean into it. I think all too often we tell people what we think they want to hear. We go into an interview and we tell them stories we think they want to hear. My suggestion is tell the stories you give a shit about, and I curse, so I apologize ahead of time if you take offense to it. But tell stories you care about. Be you. Take ownership, right? Nick asked a question in the chat and I responded that the real essence of networking is to A, make a connection, and B, have a follow-up. My 2 cents is you own the follow-up.
Yeah.
If I say to Tim, hey, will you reach out to me? And Tim says yes, I gave away all the power because I have no idea if Tim is as invested in my career or not. So take ownership. If you're an introvert, set the rules. Meaning, identify the people you want to network with first. Friends, family, colleagues, etc. Safety is huge. If meeting in person is uncomfortable, create a virtual meeting. If you know that you're sharper at 7 a.m. that you are at 7 p.m., schedule the meeting for earlier in the day. If you need to prepare, have a few stories ready and a few questions that you want to ask. I have an introverted client that said that he is really bad at figuring out the small talk. And so what I said to him is look in people's backgrounds and see what you see. And somewhere behind this, my left shoulder, there's a baseball on that table behind me. And he saw that. And I was like, great, that's what you comment on. Right. So look for something in people's background, right? Nick's got a baby and another little one running around. Denise is next to my thing and looks like she's got a cork board one side and a picture with some blue and maybe even a tree on the other side. So like comment on it, right? Yvette's got this like artistic looking like fogginess going on, like a diagonal thing that I wondered if that is an artistic background. So my point being is that if you're an introvert and small talk is not natural, be ready to tell stories, have 2 or 3 questions ready to go, and see if you can comment on someone's background.
I love that. Make sure you are reading the profiles of those people that you're networking with. And I love how simplistically that you put that. It's have a plan, make the rules, but you have to follow up. Recruiters right now are inundated with candidates. As a recruiter, I'm looking for something very specific. I still have people reach out to me. Sometimes they're trying to sell me something. You'll know those people very well. The other piece about networking is you have to nurture the relationship. I mean, I just recently met Tim and we're already like bullshitting back and forth, right? You have to nurture that relationship in order for Darren and Tim to spend an hour with my community. That's all because of relationships. So the other piece of advice I give you is mark it down. If you calendar something, you're 5 times more likely to do it. So if you make a goal for yourself, I'm going to reach out to 5 people today. You can use Sales Navigator on LinkedIn. You can filter by other folks like you. You can find the hiring leader or the recruiter. And if you don't find the right recruiter, ask if they know who you can reach out to. So the number one way you can find a job in difficult Denver is by building those relationships. Most of my clients are getting their jobs through that hidden job market, nurturing relationships and finding people, or finding second and third tier folks of, hey, I see you know this person at Maxar Technology. Can you get me in front of this person? If they do know the person, build a relationship with them. These types of strategies and operational execution have worked for my clients. Tim, anything on this topic from your perspective as a past TA leader?
Yeah, so Shelly actually asked me this, what gets you to respond to people? And similar to Darren, I like smart asses. So if someone sends me an email and I don't respond to that email and they respond like, I guess you don't follow up with people, I'm going to respond, and I get what they're trying to do. But to me, that shows that they're invested and they are at least persistent, which I admire. And so I will at least follow up with them. And I was going to say, all of us, I am sure, get spammed on LinkedIn. All of us do. And if you are uncomfortable with networking, take one of those spam messages and reach back out to them and say, hey, yeah, I'll talk to you. And they're going to pitch you on whatever they're going to sell you on, whatever they want to do. But just practice your approach with them and say, I'm really not interested in what you're selling, but I am interested about your career path. Like, how did you get to where you're at? Or move it into a direction that is questions that you want to ask these people and understand. I will always respond to somebody that is either smart aleck over email or funny if they have a really funny message, and or if they just ask, literally just, I need some help. I'm new to the area. I just have some questions. I was hoping you could help me. And they don't lead with like, I have this system that you need to look at. They just want to know about Tild, or they want to know about me, or they want to know about my team. I'll always respond to those people. And the last thing I'll say, Shelly, is what Darren has explained here and what Shelly has talked about, that works not only in Denver, not only in the US, but also globally. It works everywhere.
Let's just dive a little deeper into that. I see that you're currently at this company. I'm very interested in this company. I'd love to chat with you about what got you in there, or your career journey, or what's your thought leadership on this, or what do you think about this? Oh my gosh, I just heard that the Colorado Avalanche won, and I see you're a hockey fan, right? Did you know that Denver is a foodie area? And I know the owner of the, like, whatever, however you connect with them. When I first came to Denver in 2016, I sent out like 175 emails to connect with folks. I had people were giving me, I was busy morning, noon, and night because I was nurturing those relationships. So we're actually going to bring in one of, in August, Nikki Massman, to talk about LinkedIn recruitment and resume writing. So we will definitely be having more on that. Darren, any last thoughts as a coach that we missed that you want to highlight?
One is the Nike slogan, just do it.
Just do it.
But that's a New York attitude. I used to work at Charles Schwab, and their slogan is now own your tomorrow, which I think might be the single-handedly best slogan of all. And what it means to me is that take responsibility and advocate for yourself. If you're not networking, I would say you're not owning your tomorrow. And I would encourage you to consider taking some action in that networking realm. Own your tomorrow, advocate for yourself.
I came from Comcast. Their logo is build your future together. You have to build your future and you have to network. So it looks like this could be a really, maybe like a special edition topic for bringing you more on networking, because this is where you absolutely have to dig in. Dina, it looks like you asked a question. I'm sorry, I didn't look at it yet. Is it possible to publish the link in this most? I'll let Yvette follow up on that piece. Okay.
And Shelley, I thought someone asked if they could ask a question, but I don't know if they.
Oh, yes, it was Denise.
That was me. I just didn't want to interrupt.
No, please, Denise, go ahead.
So I just wanted to, I don't know if this is too personal for this chat, but I've been in Colorado since right before the beginning of the pandemic. And I've been working remotely from home. So my list of contacts is very limited. I don't really know many people here at all, except for just like friends of friends, all of which I've tried some sort of subterranean networking, if you want to consider, but it's really not gotten me anywhere. So I recently started looking for networking channels like this or Meetup or Denver After Dark or whatever it's called. And the majority of networking events are during work hours. I actually took an hour off work today to attend this. And so it's very difficult. I don't mind networking. I am kind of an introvert, but I've done networking before in another city and state that I lived in. And I found that it was, in fact, the most valuable way for me to search for work. The other thing I have to ask about that is also personal, and again, I'm sorry for other people in this panel who are not experiencing this, but I'm also interested in switching my industry. So I can find lots of people in my industry, but I don't want that. I want to see what else is out there because I have a huge skill set to offer, but I want to leave my industry. And so I've been doing tons and tons of research of different things I can do, but it's extremely difficult not knowing really anybody here. And it's been, and even like Chamber of Commerce and all these things that I've been referred to are all not doing meetings anymore. Like the North Denver Chamber of Commerce, I was told would be a good resource. They're not offering meetings anymore. I signed up for a careers in transition last week because I happened to have a day off. Nobody ever showed up. I mean, it's like just been super challenging. So my question is for Darren or whoever else, do you have any other ideas for me?
New York, I got lots of ideas, Denise. Just matter how good or not they are. There's a few things. Let's acknowledge that it's not easy what you're describing, i.e., move to a new place, sprinkle in the pandemic, what do you do, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So I'll just throw out some ideas. The first thing is, one of my sayings is, remove your criteria of judgment when you're deciding who to network with. What that means is, oh, I know all these people in my industry, but I want to leave. Therefore, they can't help me. Oh, I don't want to ask my friend in Timbuktu, Washington, because they don't know anybody in Denver, right? Mm-hmm. This is criteria of judgment. Mm-hmm. So think of that. Like if you're saying to yourself, oh, I'm going to call Bob. And then your next thought is, well, Bob, that's criteria of judgment, right? So removing that as best as you can. Mm-hmm. Two is that, me included, a lot of times we think about networking through professional settings. Think about what you personally care about, hobbies. Like I'm a mountain biker, so I'm going to volunteer and build some trail next week. My point being is that if you have personal hobbies, see if you can network in the hobby group, not like breaking the rules and trying to get a job in there, but maybe through osmosis, right? You meet like-minded people and, you know, who knows where conversations would go. So that's another thought. Those are the two that came to mind. There was more, but now I forgot them.
Denise, I'll follow up with you separately. I've got several ideas for you, but lovely question. And thank you so much. And I know it's hard because I've done it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Denise, the only thing that I'll add is whatever you do, and this is really easy for someone like me to say this to you, but whatever you do, don't lose your confidence. Don't lose your ego, your edge, because it comes off. No matter how hard you try to hide it, it'll come off. So as you're trying to move different careers and as you're trying to network in your conversations and your messages and the way you're talking to people, whatever ego you have about yourself and your talents, don't ever lose that. And just always keep that in mind that I mean, almost tricking yourself that I am the best in this area that I'm trying to get into, and I'm going to exude that in whatever modes of communication I'm going to use.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That was a great question. Thank you so much. Okay. And thanks for all your flexibility throughout this entire conversation. Definitely has been pivoting. LinkedIn and email messaging that captures our attention. Darren, any thoughts on this quickly?
Tim, you want to go first?
Tim,
I'll
you go
first.
first.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
go first. Any smart ass message, I'm gonna respond. So I'm not telling you that you guys should do that, because I mean, I am if you asked 100 different people how they respond to messages, they're gonna give you 100 different things. The best advice that I can give is be authentic, and don't just message someone because you want something out of it. Message them to be very curious about who they are, what they're doing, the industry that they're in, whatever it needs to be. I would recommend never starting off a conversation with, I have this system you should buy. You need to look at this software. Do you have any opportunities available at your organization? Like, even though that might be the end game, don't lead with that. Be authentic in your messages and be really curious about the person that you're reaching out to. I personally respond to funny and smart aleck messages. That doesn't mean that Darren would, or Shelly would, or Denise, or anyone else on this call would. But whatever you do, if it is authentic, you are likely to get a response from whoever you're trying to reach out to. And that's LinkedIn or email.
I've had recruiters from DocuSign, Zendesk, LinkedIn, Twitter, Ibotta, Pet2Vet, Boulevard. They all say the same thing. And as a recruiter, I also provide the same. Build that relationship. If you find something in there that's, interesting to them, it captures their attention. If you see that they won an award in the business journal, in the Denver Business Journal, or if you see that one of their executives won an award, or if you read something on the company, on your targeted company list, reach out to that person and say, hey, congratulations. Darren, any other thoughts on this one?
Just a question, as you were talking about that, you're kind of talking out of both sides. We're saying recruiters are inundated, they're overworked, they're underappreciated. I see all of their complaints lobbied on LinkedIn daily as well. So, I mean, to get that message, to build a relationship with the recruiter particularly, isn't any easier than it's ever been. If it's even more difficult, because everybody's hiding behind no reply emails and, unmonitored email boxes. So you are spamming and you are doing that. So it's all good content, but how do you kind of get past their defenses, be it through the company page? Because going through the front door of online applications doesn't work. It introduces all sorts of bias. I have, due to my background, opinions on all of that. But how do you either kick down the front door or have somebody listen when you do knock at the side door or the back door to try and get even just to contact with somebody? Tell me more about the company. Well, if they've got 8 requisitions on their desk, are they really going to have time to talk to somebody who they might know through a friend of a friend?
Nick, let me tell you something. If a recruiter has 8 requisitions on their desk, they have nothing but time.
Yes, they have nothing better to do.
I'm going to be honest. I have very little sympathy for recruiters. I'm a former recruiter myself, and I would tell you, recruiting is not a hard job. In fact, it's a pretty simple job. Now, it gets challenging based upon time and number of jobs you're working on. So just keep that in mind. There is an equation there, but I'm going to tell you, I don't have a lot of sympathy for the recruiter. 2 is this, and this is a rhetorical question because I already know the answer. And that is, have you, Nick, or have you, everyone, ever noticed how people are very quick to accept your meeting or your connection invite? They're very quick to respond and accept your meeting invite on LinkedIn, and they're extraordinarily slow to respond to messages. I know this to be true, so it's rhetorical. I can't explain why. I think it might be because people use the LinkedIn recruiter license, but I don't know the answer. My point in sharing this rhetorical question is that if your attempt to reach out to people is to message them on LinkedIn, you are going to fail more times than you are going to succeed, period.
Mm-hmm.
If you're brave enough, pick up the phone and call someone. And if that seems too scary, then figure out their email and send them an email. That's the best advice I can give anybody. If your attempt to connect with people is only on LinkedIn, you are going to fail, period. I'm repeating myself on purpose. The way to go about that or try to circumvent it is a phone call or an email.
So what Darren is trying to explain here is that it's crazy that we are now in a society where a phone call is the differentiator between an email. If you call someone now, they're like, oh my gosh, someone just called me. It is that you are differentiating yourself amongst, I don't know, at least 60, probably more, 60% of candidates. I bet it's more. It's got to be in the 90s.
Or it's
Nobody
definitely more.
calls. Nobody calls ever. And Nick, you might say, well, how do you find a number? If you're resourceful enough and you have a name and you have a company, I guarantee you can get to somebody. Now you might get to their voicemail because they're too scared to answer phones these days. Leave them a voicemail and then send an email. LinkedIn to me is the last mode of communication. It should be call, email, then LinkedIn.
Yes.
Maybe even smoke signals and then LinkedIn.
Carrier pigeon.
Right. But what Darren is saying is spot on. You have to do something in your message or the way that, or your approach to differentiate yourself from anyone else. And it's as easy as making a phone call.
I actually got my job at Honeywell by leaving a voice message on the global head of talent. From Arizona, I called New Jersey. I left a message. I said, you have a job opening in Arizona that I'd be perfect for. And then I emailed him. So I love those ideas. You know, I just want to open it up to the group. I know we started late and we had that hacker issue. I love these questions coming from Denise and Nick, and this is really all about you. What else can we help you with? Sharon said she tried phone calls get blocked by person at front desk, or is there a phone number being published?
Yeah, get used to rejection. This is a rejection game. I get it. You're going to get rejected. And you can keep trying to get into that company or move on to the next. But that's when I talked about your ego and your confidence. Who cares? I mean, I probably rejected Darren. Darren rejected me. I mean, I'm sure that it wasn't immediate that we connected, but as soon as we did, it's amazing. I mean, rejection is a part of the world right now, and it's getting worse.
What is your opinion on just showing up somewhere? Because I've done that before too. But what are your thoughts on that? How would you feel if somebody showed up at your office to chat with you and see what your company is all about?
Can I ask, when was the last time you did that and how'd it go?
50-50. I actually came to Denver about 10 years ago. This is a different world back then, understand? And I just handed out resumes to all the offices that were on my list. Now I got interviews from 2 out of the 7 that I handed out. I didn't get any of the jobs, but I also had to say the one job I had to cut the interview short because my dad was hospitalized. So it kind of complicated things a little bit. But anyway, I'm just asking, what your thoughts are on that.
Gosh, my office is so obscure. If someone showed up to my office, I'd probably be like, how did you even find me? So I'd probably be intrigued by just that alone. It really honestly, and this is not the answer you're probably looking for, Denise, but it depends on in the moment and how the initial conversation goes. And I don't know if showing up to offices, I feel like I would probably approach it differently than most. I feel like showing up to an office unannounced, you're going to have a very difficult time, depending on the size of the company, getting to the person you want to get to.
Sure.
At my current company, it wouldn't be a
that.
big deal. What's that, Shelley?
I agree that showing up unannounced, people are very busy, and it would not be my first recommendation to you as a coach. Good question.
All right, here's where I would differ.
Really?
Very simply put, quick little story is I had a client that was stuck in her ways and I just couldn't break her out of it. And finally I said, what could you do differently? And those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words are now on a post-it on my screen. She said that shifted her. So think of it that way. What could you do differently? If you're feeling like you want to go knock on someone's door, go do it. Because we don't know if it's going to work until you do it and you have some evidence. Now, would it be my first suggestion? Maybe not, but if it's your first suggestion, it's a great one. And if you're willing to do it, I'd love it. Please report back. How'd it go? So that's me. But what could you do differently? That's my question.
Awesome. Darren, you and I work a lot on the internal and external judgment, like all this judgment that people carry during the career search. And it is 1 o'clock. I'm okay to go over it. Darren or Tim, how are you guys?
Go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
No, I didn't mean to. Go ahead, Darren.
No, you first, please.
Okay. I have 15 minutes.
Okay.
Same.
Okay, so we're going to go a little long today for anyone who can stay on with us. The internal and external judgment during the career journey. A lot of the clients I work with feel very stuck and that they have a lot of fear. They're overwhelmed and stressed and kind of pissed off about social injustice or them being underrepresented or being undervalued. And all these negative thoughts come their way. So Darren, I know you deal a lot with this as well. What are your thoughts on helping people through that internal judgment to help them get through their journey?
I am big on recognizing, sorry, I'm trying to do two things. Look at my calendar, make sure I am good. Okay. So as Tim was saying, right, watch yourself, be cognizant of your ego, watch your confidence, etc. It's almost undoubtable that as the longer your job search goes, or the longer you're in a job that doesn't make you happy, the greater potential is your confidence is going to get shook. You're going to start doubting yourself and it creeps in, it being those things, the internal judgment. So I tell my clients all the time that is part of today's game, right? You could be as persistent and resilient as you want, but there's going to come a time, almost always, when the longer it goes, the more you say, it must be me. It must be my resume. It's this thing. Oh my God, I have a hair out of place and that interviewer saw it and that's why I'm not getting the job, right? We tell ourselves all sorts of nonsense and then we believe the nonsense and then the nonsense becomes our truth. And next thing you know, we're totally focused on one little hair stuck out of place, which is absurd, right? So where am I going with this is be mindful of you. What are the conversations you're having with yourself? If you're beating yourself up, talk to someone that you can let that shit out, vent, get a coach, a friend, a colleague, whatever it is. Whatever. Because the conversation you're having is probably not true. 2, you don't know anybody's story, right? So the same client I was telling you about doing something differently, if you didn't respond to her first message, all of a sudden now you were off, cross you off the list. She's never going to call you again. And that surprises me because I play by a 3-strike rule. I'll reach out to you 3 times. And if you won't respond to me by the 3rd time, then I'm done. Now, what happened with her is she slowly started to evolve and gave people 2 strikes. And on the 2nd strike, they would respond back and be like, hey, I'm so sorry. I was on vacation. Or my father was ill or something. And she was like, wow, I feel foolish now that I judged you because I thought you weren't respecting me. Right. So that was both an internal and external judgment. Right. So where I'm going with this is be mindful of the conversation, singular or plural, you're having with yourself. Right. How negative or positive is it? And how much are you inviting others into it? Because if you're filling in all the blanks with your singular mind, my guess is that you're much more dramatic and creative than real life is. And when you start believing that stuff, it becomes true and it usually is not. Hopefully that made sense. I feel like I rambled a little bit.
I loved it.
I loved
But I've heard it.
Then why have you heard it?
Darren, I mean, Darren, what I learned, I think the biggest thing I learned with EQ, honestly, was just being aware of the things that you're telling yourself that usually are not true. And secondly, taking what other people say externally, what other people are saying to you or about you as gospel, and not at least absorbing what information is coming your way and trying to understand it. So I love it.
We could talk all day just about that internal critic, but Darren, I think exactly. You got to know yourself. You got to know when the bullshit is in your brain, and you have to know how to switch it to be more curious and explore, because the longer your search, the more your foundation is going to be rocked. I mean, how much more real can we get than that? Right? Thanks for staying on the phone. I see people shaking their head with us. And okay, what other advice would you give to job seekers? Tim, we'll start with you.
So Darren hit on this earlier. If just so you know, if you're applying to a website, if you're applying to a career site, 99.9% chance you're either going to run up against a recruiter that doesn't know what they're looking at, or you're going to run up against AI who is looking at your resume and you might not have the right keywords, and so it kicks you out anyway. And it is nearly not impossible, but nearly impossible to land a job doing that. So you have to differentiate yourself and do something different. So if there's nothing else that you take from this, you have got to find a way to network authentically with other people and understand what it takes to get a job in this market. So that if there's one single piece of advice, that coming from me or this group, it is you have to learn to network in a more authentic way.
Awesome.
Sorry, just to ask a question off of that. It's a huge frustration. Again, I talk about trying to go through the front door, give everybody the same sort of fair shot. And, I hear all the time that the internet hiring doesn't work. So why does everybody do it? Like, it doesn't make any sense. If it's not working for job seekers and it's not working for corporations, let's throw it out and start over. I mean, maybe that's just the prolonged job search and me talking.
Yep.
But if we're doing all these other song and dance anyway,
Yep.
why is that there? And even if you do get a hold of a recruiter, I've had numerous ones tell me, well, put in your application because I really can't talk to you until you're in the system.
Because it's a law, or it's their policies that they're having to track. So that's why applicant tracking systems are there. And the reality is if a recruiter has an opportunity that is a very competitive opportunity, or even a mildly competitive opportunity, there's going to be 50 plus applicants that could potentially be on that role. So as a recruiter, who am I going to listen to, or who am I going to push forward? The people that I have a relationship with, or their resume is spot on. Those are the two, or referred from somebody else within the organization. Those are the ones that push on, but you still have to have that applicant tracking system to track people. You still have to apply, because you as the candidate have to opt in to apply to the role. And there are laws, various state laws, that require certain information provided to the candidate so that they are fully aware of what their candidate journey is. I get it's a frustration, Nick, and I don't disagree with you. There's a lot of song and dance that happens with recruiters. There's no way around it. You have to do it. Is there a better way? Darren and I have talked about it a lot. There's an absolutely better way. We don't know what it is yet, but there's going to be a better way, and someone's going to invent it. Maybe it's Darren. I don't know.
I'm going to keep on trying to play against the game.
Yeah.
Just to kind of commiserate for a moment, Nick, and then I'll shift a little bit, is I'm 40, I'll be 47 this year. And back in the day, when I applied to a job, I put on my suit, I did what Denise did, and I went to the company, I knocked on the door, and I filled in an application, right? The advent of the internet was supposed to solve that because it made it so easy to apply, right? Well, that's the pro, and the con is it's so easy to apply. Meaning everybody and their mother applies to every single job because they think they can do it, right? So what it has done is it made the game that much more challenging, because again, I don't have a lot of sympathy for recruiters, but sifting through 20 applicants between 200 applicants is a much different gig, right? So the way to circumvent this, or the way to stand out, is do something different, right? Now, I hear what you're saying, Nick, is you're trying to come in the front door, and I'm guessing you have varying degrees of success with that. Okay, a little bit, right? It's not an absolute, right? But again, what I've seen work more than not is, yes, you have to apply the job because it's the legality of it. It's the game. You're going to call a recruiter. They're going to ask if you're in there. And if you're not, then you just kind of lost your shot, right? So that's one. Two is, if you know anybody at the company, either on LinkedIn or elsewhere, ask that person if the company has an employer referral program. Because sometimes a company will give preferential treatment to candidates, or to referrals, sorry. And if you get hired, they get paid. And then you could give them a quick little elbow and say, okay, now you get to take me out to dinner, haha. So there's that little joke. The front door can be literal or proverbial, right? It could be Denise's approach of knocking on the door and seeing how it goes. I really do think a phone call goes a long way. And then the email is the second thing. 3 is know your stories, right? Why are you applying to this job? What makes you unique? And don't just summarize what I'm going to read on your resume anyway. Tell me that you have the resiliency and perseverance to actually make a phone call. And let me ask you, recruiter, how many people have actually done what I'm doing right now? Right? Like that's the smart assy directness that Tim and I both resonate with. But I'm not saying do me, like do you, right? Whatever your approach is, be authentic to it, stand in it. Some people are going to like it. Some people are not. Part of that, some people like it, some people not, is no 50-50, right? 50% of people are going to slam the door in your face and 50% of people are going to say, come on in, right? So if you know that when the door gets slammed in your face, you know, you're expecting it, right? Now, this is old sales stuff and I'm not saying it's easy. My big advice for everybody is 1, be able to speak to your accomplishments. A lot of people talk about the actions they take, but they don't talk about the results they achieve. 2 is exercise some form of networking, whether it's going to big events, whether it's reaching out to people, you know, whatever it is, you got to network in some way, shape, or form. And maybe the most important thing is as you're going through the job search process, know your stories. You're going to get asked questions about tell me a time when you failed, you succeeded, you overcame objections, you exceeded your own expectations, you learned something new, fill in the blank. But you need to know those stories. And I always tell my clients, you need to have 5 stories ready. And that does not include, why did you leave your last job? What are your strengths and weaknesses? How much do you want to get paid? And why do you want my job? So you need 9 stories to tell at any given time. And if you can't tell them, somebody else can. So the big thing I want to suggest is know your stories, be able to tell them, know the details, tell them with inflection. Remember that Tim was wearing a black shirt and he had those really funny neon tiled tilt thing behind him. And, you know, you made fun of him before you even got onto the thing. And now you're telling the whole group that you made fun of him, right? Like these are details of a story that are my story. So know your story. I think that's a big part. A lot of people don't tell stories very well.
That's actually a huge part of it. Thank you so much for joining us today. We did go over. Thanks for your patience. And our hope is that you've gotten nuggets today. Darren, I love your candor, so much focus on what we're doing. Tim, your badassness and your smartassness are always welcome at Colorado Career Connectors. What the main advice I heard today for all of you is do something differently. If it's not working, try something different. Don't listen to the bullshit that your brain is telling you because it really is not true. If you do need assistance with that, Darren and I are both coaches. Reach out to us. Both of our contact information will be in the email that we send out to you. And we are trying to grow Colorado Career Connectors. And as you have hopefully gotten, this isn't just us painting or blowing sunshine. It's the actual truth behind the recruitment curtain. Tim or Darren, any last thoughts?
I just want to thank everyone for the time and kind of Shelly, the flexibility with everything that was going on earlier. I thought you handled that awesome. So kudos to you
Thank you.
And really appreciate the forum and the platform. This has been awesome.
Perfect. Keep your confidence up, everyone. Denver is a difficult market. Denise and Nick, reach out to a coach. Doesn't have to be us, but we know a lot of people in town. Let us know how we can help you. Dina and Lynette and Marla and everyone, great to see you. We'll see you in 2 weeks where Shelly Shell will be talking about fears about finance during a job transition and how to get into more faith. And I don't mean religious faith. I mean more faith about yourself about that and make the right choices during that. I hope to see everyone there. We'll be sending this out on the recording and also be putting it up on our YouTube channel. Take care. And if I can personally help you, please get some time with me on the calendar. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Darren. Take care, everybody.
Everybody.
Everyone, bye.
Bye.